Right, welcome to Naija Unfiltered, a SYMFONI podcast. I'm Victor Iruele, and our guest on today's edition of the program is Convenor, Country First Movement, Chris Nwaokobia Jr. Once again, good to have you on the show.
It's my pleasure, Victor.
And it's been a while you came around, and so much has happened in the polity, and the elections gradually closing in on us.
Yeah, Victor, it's been neither here nor there. I've been trying to stay fit and stay alive for the challenging 6 months ahead of us, because whether we like it or not, the battle for a nation that works for all is unalterable. Whether we like it or not, we must continue to nudge and urge leadership to do right.
All right, INEC has published the list of presidential candidates and their running mates and academic qualifications. But looking at the reality, especially where the incumbent president did not present basic education qualifications, what does this mean for our democracy?
Victor, that bothers me deeply. Politics should be more than mere electoral contestation. Politics should be deeper than just what the opposition or what the ruling party says. Politics should be about conscience, values, and psychosocial minimums and parameters that societies must be governed by. And I'm speaking deeply here. If the law provides for certain basic norms for you to become president and says that you either have a school cert or its equivalent on the one hand, and then the law also says that if you have forged or made through an affidavit, because every data you submit to INEC regarding your choice or quest for electoral office, you come by way of affidavit. I ran for president in 2011, so I know what that means. And with all sense of respect, that provision of the law says that if you have, by way of an affidavit, tendered a document that is found to be fake or forged, you lack the right, you lose the basic constitutional right to contest, you should be disqualified. And very unfortunately, and albeit tragically, Victor, and I'm speaking deeply, love for country, you know the name of my movement is Country First. I have no biases against anybody, and I've said repeatedly that I happen to wear a second hat after the Country First movement hat, which is Project Vote Competency and Capacity. So for me, it's not necessarily about Peter Obi, not necessarily about Atiku Abubakar, and not necessarily about Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It's about country. And so when we look at the issues regarding the data released by INEC, it's heartrending, troubling, and it deeply bothers the carapace of my mind to see that we have, under the name of our dear president, no primary school certificate, no secondary school certificate, and then a certain Chicago State University information. And then you ask yourself, ought not a man have the basics before you get the other ones? And that is why it does trouble me that we're back to square one again, Victor. What the judiciary and what Nigerians should do is think about our collective morality, think about our moral margins, think about credibility, think about integrity as we discuss these issues. Because what are we teaching generation next? Get to any level by hook, crook, or subterfuge, and then somebody says to you, oh, he has a competency. What about the basics? And here I'm speaking deeply. Because in 1999, when Mr. President ran for office of governor of Lagos State, he tendered a primary school and a secondary school certificate, albeit under oath. So if those documents or those information that he tendered in 1999 and 2003 were found to be fake. However, they were tendered under oath. That means that he has lied under oath. That means if in 2026 they have decided to remove it from the record, it means that he perjured, he lied, he forged, he faked a document. And that automatically disqualifies him from running in 2027. But it does trouble me that nobody's talking about that in that light. It does trouble me that what everybody's saying is, oh, he's doing well. What everybody's saying, oh, is he should finish his job. And nobody's thinking about what margins, what moral margins, what values will leave for generation next. It does bother me, Victor. And one other side to it is the fact that if we don't right some of these wrongs today, posterity, our children will look us in the face and say, when that happened, when someone lied under oath, what did you do? Did he not become president? When someone who didn't have a primary school or a secondary school certificate presented a university degree from Chicago, did you not overlook it? What did you people do? And so it does bother me deeply that we're digging a pit for all of us. It does bother me that when we politic, we do not think about the score of history or posterity. It does bother me that going forward into 2027, there are issues that we have left unaddressed, and I think that there is indeed a challenge to the judiciary, a challenge to the civil society, and a challenge to anybody who truly loves their country. I have said, and I'm repeating it here, that what I am for come 2027 is competency, capacity, and commitment to the common good. I am not here to sell any candidate. I will not sell any candidate until I see a manifesto that addresses the fundamental issues of state.
All right, let's look at it from the context of he met the basic minimum. They said even if it's just secondary school attempted, or in the opinion of INEC, you're able to read and write. Yeah. That's why it is okay. So if somebody is saying that all things are passed away, so the papers he presented in 2019, 2009, 2023, that he didn't present them any longer, is it still logical to say that he lied under oath and he should stand disqualified?
Victor, strongly let me say that your sins are forgiven is not the normative here. It's about societal values. It's about moral minimums. It is about the law. If you lied under oath, it's a crime. And that crime under our law is sufficient to disqualify you. It's not about citizen Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and it's not about the emotions. It's about our society. It's about our moral margins. It's about our legal margins. It's about what is right, trite, and right. That cliche, Caesar's wife must be above board, is because those who govern, those who think about society, those who think that things must be done right, conceptualized logical minimums. And I say this clearly. Now, the minimums, as it were, is school set or its equivalent, and that connotes what we have now come by as a common phraseology, the ability to read and write. Now, that's not a problem. But the question is, before this sudden realization, did he lie under oath? The question is, before this sudden realization, did he present a forged document? The question is, before this sudden realization, did he offend the Constitution? And the answer is yes. And I said this clearly. In 1999, when citizen Bola Ahmed Tinubu ran for Lagos State governorship, There was a certain primary school that they put in the records of INEC that never existed. Then the secondary school that he allegedly attended in Lagos in 1970, the year before I was born, was only founded in 1974, 3 years after I was born. So, in actuality, he didn't attend any secondary school in Lagos. And then don't also forget that citizen Gani Fayemi did take him up on it. And it was even in the course of that legal contestations that we found out that there was somewhere also that allegedly he attended, they said he allegedly attended CMS Grammar School or so in Ibadan, government college in Ibadan. And then the government college in Ibadan old boys came out and they said they never met him there. He was never there. And so they threw that away. But you see, when you swear to an affidavit, when you swear on the oath that you attended a school that never existed, that's a lie. And what does the Constitution envisage? When you do that, you stand disqualified from running for elections. It's not about, and if we must build a country where rectitude, where right is right, then we should rise beyond partisan politics and politics. I think that it behoves even on APC as a party to think about the life of the party and what is said of the party 10, 20 years after, because, we had these issues about, in 2015, there was this argument that whether the former President Buhari had NEPA paper, NEPA bill or whatever, water bill, he was good enough. And after 8 years, Nigerians realized that he wasn't good enough. After 8 years, even his party has said that most of the problems they inherited in 2023 was caused by him, and that the economy had gone kaput and things were wrong because he didn't do things rightly.
What do you make of those who have argued that it doesn't matter whether he attended a former primary school or secondary school? After all, in those days, people can sit for exams without necessarily going through primary and secondary school.
Yeah, my worry is when an individual has questions with date of birth, an individual has questions with names. And the last count, I heard about 4 or 5 different names. Amoda, Yakini, Ogunlere, Bola, Ahmed Tinubu, one individual. When an individual has issues about date of birth, some say 1946, some say 1952, some say 1953, one individual. When one individual has these baggages, when one individual allegedly attended government college in Ibadan, allegedly attended CMS in Lagos, allegedly attended schools that never existed when they said he attended those schools, it calls to question. These are the moral, it's a signpost, Victor. We're talking about a nation, for God's sake. We're not talking about a private company. We're talking about a nation. We're not talking about an individual town association where they say, oh, we know him. We're talking about the margins, the imagery, the perception, the impression. We're talking about how this goes home to the people. We're talking about how posterity perceives the moment. We're talking about what the law says. So it's beyond these emotions and sentiments, Victor. What I'm talking about is about our nation, not about APC, ADP, ADC, NDC, not about candidates and candidacy, not about parties and partisanship, not about politics or politics. I'm talking about our nation. I'm talking about how we are perceived, not only by the present, but by the future and the international community.
Who will bail the cats in this instance, who will look at President Tinubu and said, you stand disqualified because you lied under oath?
We'll go to the courts. We'll go to the courts of public opinion too. We'll go to the courts of justice. We'll talk to posterity. We'll talk to Nigerians. We'll talk to history. We'll talk to everybody who must be talked to. And people must, citizen action. Victor, I don't think that giving up on any major situation, like I told you the other time I was here, there is a bell that rings from the earliest of times. That bell is as old as humankind. The call to justice, the call to equity, the call to fairness, the call to due process. I'll give you an instance, Victor. No nation necessarily was founded or formed by saints, but men rose up and made to themselves laws. And because they wanted a beloved society and a community that works for the good of all, they chose to abide by those laws, not minding how it affected them, not minding whose ox was God. You know, the time has come for us to raise the margins and, you know, as people in the civil society, as people in political movements, as statesmen, as elders, as people who worship at the temple of justice, it's a call to all of us. A call to do right. A call to fix nation. A call to challenge our collective conscience. And Victor, I've said to people that I'd leave, if for anything, as a question mark on the collective conscience of our nation and indeed and our people. And let me say this, Victor. Do you have a learn on tomorrow? Do you have a learn or an executed document with the Almighty that you will see 90 years? Do you have a guarantee that you will see 70 if you're not near? Now, why are we all scared? Why aren't we thinking about how we build a nation that is answerable to our citizens? Why aren't we concerned about how we build a nation that does right, that applauds right, that salutes right? Why aren't we bothered about how things work in this country? Why are we all too easily willing to allow sleeping dogs lie? Why are we all too willing to suffer fools gladly? Why are we so scared about what affects and how things affect us? You know, I want to say here that there wouldn't have been any preacher from Atlanta, Georgia, like Martin Luther King Jr. if he didn't conquer fear. And Victor, I want to say here that the fear of a snake in the wild is not cowardice. But you know what? Precautions are necessary and needed. Yes, I agree. But I also think that we must challenge the conscience of this nation.
All right, let's based on the publication by INEC, we saw that there are 16 candidates likely to be on the ballot, but our national discourse towards 2027 had only been limited to Tinubu, Obi, Atiku. Why is this so?
The big candidates, the small candidates. You know, when I ran in 2011, I was one of those considered the small candidates, the lightweights, you know. And then let's even hazard a guess. If they are going to have a presidential debate, they won't invite more than 5 or 6 to that presidential debate. So that, for me, is really not the problem. Some are running to awaken the conscience of our people. Some are running to prick the soul of our nation. I did that in 2011, you know. Now, some are the bigwigs who have access across the nation. Some, by reason of the resources they control, gain daily traction. And there are some other candidates who prick on the conscience of our people, like my brother and friend, Omoyele Sowore, like my big brother and senior friend and colleague and comrade, Benga Olowekbo Hashim. There are some of the candidates who are a massive prick on our collective conscience. They're gaining traction at their own levels. Now, there are candidates who belong to the major parties, you know, the ruling party, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, leading opposition party, as it were, today is NDC, if you like. And they have candidate citizen Peter Obi. They have another major opposition party, candidate citizen Atiku Abubakar, and then you have some other candidates who are on the ballot, who are going to be on the ballot. Now, what is particularly important to me, Victor, as we talk, is that second cap that I wear now, which is Project Vote Competency and Capacity. And I'll tell you why it is important. In 2023, what a major campaign. I was the lead spokesperson of the Big Tent, the independent campaign organization of Peter Obi then. We had candidates who presented a manifesto to the people. I had questions with all the manifestos, including that of Peter Obi. I still do. And so now that we're talking about 2027, we're asking every candidate to go back to the drawing board and come up with a manifesto that addresses the fundamental issues of nationhood, ranging from security to healthcare, from healthcare to the size and the order of governance, from size and order of governance to issues fundamentally about the economy, to issues about energy, to issues about subsidy, no subsidy, corruption, anti-corruption, fundamental issues. And I said to you, Victor, not even the ruling government has a watertight manifesto, and that's why it's like we're groping in the dark. Now, with respect to my elder brother and friend, Peter Obi, the issues, and I said to every one of them who listened then, the 2023 manifesto of the Labour Party and Peter Obi was as empty as that of the APC. The one that Atiku presented, his pact with Nigerians, were empty on fundamental issues. And we had people, leading campaigners, who were talking about platitudes and ordinary issues. And then the campaign was largely about me, what I think of myself, than what Nigeria truly and desperately needs. So I think that going forward, for me, the journey towards 2027, because I remember after an interview with a sister station, somebody said, "Oh, did you not know about Obi's manifesto when you spoke for him in 2023? And clearly, my answer is still the same thing. I knew. But we had candidates who were likely to win, and I chose the less of the many evils that we had. But in 2027, I won't be compelled to make that choice. And that's why I'm saying to them, if you want to rule Nigeria, go back to your closet and tinker with your manifesto and come out with issues, solutions, and fundamentals. Because we're going out from the next 2-3 weeks to tell Nigerians, for us, it's not just about the APC or the ADC or the NDC. It's about who has the solutions to our problems. We are going to the 774 local governments across this country. We're going to mobilize the 6 geopolitical zones to ask these questions. I don't want to hear, "Oh, I have not stolen before," or "he has stolen." I want to hear what you got to do with issues about national security. I don't want to hear who have been caught or who hasn't been caught. I want to hear fundamental issues about what you will do with education, healthcare, employment, agriculture. Victor, as you and I talk, can you remember any major, apart from that mantra, consumption to production? And then have they told you how they're going to move us from consumption to production? What are the takeaways? Surprisingly, you can't find any. You can't tell me. Victor, you can't tell me. Those who are campaigning for Peter Obi cannot face a debate with an intellectually sound mind. one of these young boys will take you to the cleaners. What will you do with climate change? Flood is everywhere. What would you do with curbing the rise in out-of-school children? What are you actually going to do with agriculture? Victor, we have arguably the largest arable land in the world because ours is very fertile. It's not like Chad, it's not like Sudan. But we are faced with food shortage and insecurity. Which candidate has addressed these fundamental questions? Victor, I think that fundamentally, and I keep telling people, my challenge is to teach our people to think. My late dad told me something that has never left me. Yesterday I was talking with friends at home, and I said to them, I pray we learn to bring our brains out of the refrigerator. My father told me that most of us keep our brains in the refrigerator. You know, when you listen to people, and one time I was here, and when I looked at the comment after the interview, somebody was saying, oh, he has made up his mind to support Atiku. But actually in that interview, I told the world why I cannot support an Atiku. And I said, they can't think. The mob doesn't think. Now, who will teach them to think? You know, when IBB deported Patrick Wilmot in 1990, at the airport, Patrick Wilmot said something. My crime was to have taught the young to think.
Let's look at, of all these candidates running, about 5 of them are from the South. How does it impact on the outcome of this election and for President Bola Tinubu?
Most of the candidates from the South, majorly yes, because there is an unwritten script that says that the political gladiators are following through with zoning and rotation of power. Fair enough. I don't believe in zoning, and you know that. I think that if God gives me the grace to become the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria someday, and if 10, 20 years after my son becomes the next best item, he should be able to run. And that's what happens everywhere in the world. So I am not inclined to the arguments of zoning or rotation of power. I'm inclined to the argument that calls for competency, capacity, and commitment to the common good. But now, with what we have, the major candidates, how does it impact on citizen Bola Ahmed Tinubu? And I tell you simply, the liners that I used in my last interview here have become the sing-song everywhere. Unfortunately, not the way I intended it, but those who have inherited it are those of the ruling party. When I said to Nigerians that if the opposition does not coalesce, does not unite around fundamental issues and around a sellable candidate, that the opposition would, albeit, be coronating citizen Bola Ahmed Tinubu for president come 2027. Unfortunately, it does look like that is the way we're going. Because if you have, as it were, candidates who have refused to bury their individual ambition, needs, and ego, and they're insisting on running, the voters that Tinubu naturally and traditionally will vote for him, and then the 32 state governors who have openly endorsed him and counting will campaign for him. But now strictly to the issues raised, if you have 5 major candidates, some people are saying, oh, with Atiku as the leading candidate from the north, it is very likely that the demography will favor him. And I laugh. You know, the demography that does the worst to Atiku are actually the largest voting population in Nigeria, the young people. Atiku is too old. I'm speaking deeply here. Atiku is too old for a highly progressive world. I'm telling you this. This is not, with every sense of respect to his smart mind, we're talking about Gen Z, we're talking about the generation that employs themselves. Most people don't know. Most of these young people are either in private businesses, they are either in trading platforms, they are doing their businesses and they're getting by, they are either in show business and the likes, and they are the ones who predominate and populate the social media. these people are thinking about Generation Next and about their future. I don't know the message that Atiku and his team are putting out. I've listened to them. How does it change? Like I told you, no manifesto anywhere yet. Now let's come to the fundamental issues. Atiku has been running since 1993, 1992 precisely. 2027 will be his 7th time. That is not to say that I don't remember that one of the greatest American presidents, B.B. Lincoln, ran 6 times before he won the presidency. But the issues were different. We're talking about a nation that needs reset. Mark my choice of words. And I hope you make the best of this interview, because this is important for the soul of our nation. Let me say this. And mark my choice of words, I repeat. This nation needs reset. We need a president who can walk around the clock. Our nation is troubled on all fours and all scores. We need a president who is strong, effective, efficient, and effectual. We don't need a president who will be tired after sitting up for 7 hours. We don't need a president who will be tired after receiving several briefs and information. We need a president who is strong, well, and effective. We need a president who understands the exigencies of the now and the urgencies of the moment. With all sense of respect. Remember the optics in Ibadan when the parties were thinking about a coalition and a single candidate against President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. What was the major picture you saw? It was former Vice President Atiku sleeping in the hall. He's an old man, for God's sake. I respect him, I love him, but if I were his son, I would kneel down and beg him, Daddy, rest. And then let me also wonder, and let's think aloud, Victor. He'll be 81 in 2027. This is not America. Even in America, where the system works, here we need a reset. Even in America, where the system works, the Democratic Party rose up and made Citizen Biden drop his candidacy for a Kamala Harris because they thought he was too old and he wasn't doing too well anymore. In Nigeria, people are looking at me in the face and telling me that, oh, come on, age is just a number. For a nation that isn't working, for a nation at this point, Victor, as you and I talk, maybe when we leave here, we'll hear the news. 7 kidnapped, 20 killed, some soldiers killed. Every day the stories are unhealthy, unpalatable, and heartrending. And then you're going to have the president, no, he has to lead. Mitt Romney said something, the leader shows the way.
Do we have such person among those whose names were published?
Victor, I'm not going to fall into your ambush. Frankly, and I'll tell you why. I will see from the manifesto. I did say that. I will see from the manifesto and we will put it out before the people. We will address the issues. I don't want, let me make you laugh. And this is not a jab at my big brother who I campaigned for in 2023. This is not a direct jab. But let me tell you, every so often I hear my brother talk about how he saved money in Anambra State. Even the opposition is so lazy, they can't even the ruling party is so lazy, they can't even come with the facts. Yes, he saved those monies. Victor, are you aware? What state are you from?
Abia.
Okay. Let me make you laugh. Are you aware that as bad as it was, the government of Chris Ngige managed poverty better than Peter Obi's government in Anambra State? Are you aware? The statistics are there. Are you also aware that Obiano managed poverty better than both of them? When Ngige was governor, it was about 46% poverty rate. When Peter Obi was governor, it was about 52% poverty rate. When Obiano was governor, it was between 16 and 22% or 26%. So in actuality, you'll ask yourself, governmental statistics, who was the better governor? You know, when I hear people, I need to see statistics, I need to see a manifesto that addresses the fundamental. Don't tell me you saved money. Governance is not about saving money. I hope I'm not doing the job for the APC. Governance is about serving the people, about reducing poverty, about creating jobs, about making the economy work. Now, the argument about saving money is because we have, over the years, had looters and profligate people in governance. And so the argument of saving money, which is lame, becomes plausible. I want the president who can fix things. Unfortunately, and that's why I said to Victor, you can ambush me because I'm clear-headed enough to address these issues. I want to see their manifesto. If tomorrow a Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for instance, comes out with a watertight manifesto that addresses the fundamental issues, and then he admits where he has gone wrong in issues like subsidy and the likes, he admits that he has to pursue issues about resource control and true fiscal federalism frontally. He admits that we must deal with issues of employment, security of jobs, and creating of jobs, agriculture. We must cultivate our arable lands. If he comes up with fundamental issues that will address and show a commitment, I will support him. If it is Peter Obi, for the purposes of this interview, because, you know, the mob doesn't listen, the mob doesn't read, but let me make it easier for them. If it is Peter Obi that comes out to say, oh, rather than issues about saving money, we will spend our money to create jobs, fix electricity, fight corruption, fix this, fix that, and shows me how he will, I will support him. If it is the old Atiku who wakes up tomorrow and says, okay, yes, we may have done wrong, I'll be a four-year president, but this is what I will do, I will create a department of national think tank, I will do this, I will do that, and it looks plausible, and we subject it to the crucible of debate. You see, Victor, humbly, at 55, I was born after the war. I've studied Nigeria enough to think. I've studied Nigeria enough to be less emotional, emotive, and to be pushed around by platitudes and words that do not translate to concrete governance. And so I am working tirelessly with people who truly care about our country to create a generation of thinkers who will address these fundamental issues, because we must make Nigeria work.
Let's move on now. After the meeting of the Catholic bishops with the president, there have been quite a lot of reactions from spokespersons of the president, and in all of these, some of them have really been concerning. I don't know. For you, what are your thoughts? What the bishops told the president and the reaction of his minders, the president's minders?
Victor, lazy, combative spokespersons of Mr. President. More emotional, more emotive than logical. Very sad. You know, my heart goes out to Mr. President for having failed woefully in his appointing protocols with respect to those who defend or speak for him. Maybe that's the mindset around the presidency, but it's unfortunate. I expect that there should be one man with reason. And pardon me my choice of words, I don't care what they think of it. There should be one man with reason who flies in between the truth, and says to Mr. President, indeed, let me give you an instance. If you don't think the bishop's important, why did you borrow or hire bishops in 2023 to endorse the Muslim ticket? If you didn't think them relevant, why did you dress street urchins in cassock to endorse the Muslim ticket. So if after 3 years in governance, you want to paint them wrong, you want to color them bad because they have told you the truth, then it's unfortunate. I read the whole details of the meeting with Mr. President and the Catholic bishops. I listened to the clips that were made public. I listened to the interview of His Eminence Onayeko. And I think he was being true to fact, true to history, true to Mr. President. I think he was, pardon my choice of words, the lover-in-chief of Mr. President. Because only man who loves you tells you the truth. I think he was a prick in the conscience of a presidency that should have said, oh yeah, we admit that this hasn't fared well, that hasn't fared well, but we're still doing our best. So here, Victor, the words I'll use is, Ebo Baya Onanuga be nicer.
All right, but you
Wala be nicer. Whoever is speaking for Sunday Diary be nicer. Nigerians are hungrier and angrier than they were 4 or 5 years ago. So be nicer.
Do you think that whatever the Catholic bishops and the president discuss should have been confidential?
No, what is confidential about how I go to sleep and wake up in the morning? What's confidential about what food I eat, Victor? We're talking about issues of a nationhood. What's confidential about the fact that soldiers are being killed in theaters of war and that bandits who harangue and harass us are being neutralized? What's nicer? What's private about the fact that the cup of Gary is much more expensive now than it was yesterday? Where are we going to? What kind of debate there is nothing to, are you aware that those bishops lead over 30 million Nigerians? So what's private about? They're representing about 30 million people. So it matters.
That's if we are to say they are representing only the Catholics, like
yes.
some people try to argue.
Catholics, yes. Let's even narrow the confines to Catholics. About 30 million Catholics, and they're speaking on behalf of them. Pardon me my choice of debate, the line of my debate now. If you're representing 30 million people, that's more than the largest population of most of the countries in Africa. A man who's representing, or people who are representing about 30 million people should come Nicodemously and speak with Mr. President and go back? No, he has to go home with something, a word of faith, a word of strength. And so what the Catholic bishops have done was profound. I salute them. Like I said, critical opposition is the best truth in the town or the city called patriotism. And they've done their bit. Where, like I said, I lampoon massively is the Olympic shame that those who speak for Mr. President put in his face every day. You don't always attack. And then you don't also always attack when the other voice is the truth. And then you don't try to smear it with partisan colors that Onayeko is speaking for. Everything is not politics, my dear. When I go to the market, Victor, yes, I go to the market, I buy my stuff, so I cook here, So when I go to the market, Victor, the seller doesn't ask whether I'm APC or ADC or NDC. My pot of soup doesn't know whether I sympathize with Mr. President or Mr. Gregory Obi. What I go through every day is indiscriminate of partisanship. So when people address these fundamental issues, don't be too quick to color it with partisanship. Those spokespersons, I don't know, man. I don't know what has happened.
Let's just leave it hanging. Let's leave it at that. Let's go to
those spokespersons. They are spokespersons. They don't think.
Let's move on. Let's go to President Obasanjo and Atiku. One of Atiku's media aide, Paul Ibe, was on set here, and he said that President Obasanjo may have been given a mandate to deliver Tinubu, that all these stories about supporting Obi Kwakwanso is just make-believe or a smokescreen? What do you think?
Let me say very importantly that I think that this perennial conflict between Atiku Abubakar and former President Olusegun Obasanjo, my big daddy, is becoming nauseating, is becoming infantile. And if the two not the shame, let me speak my sharpler language. If the two not the shame, are the shame for the two. You know, we have an election coming in a few months. You don't market any candidate directly or indirectly with this. The fundamental issues are strong, stronger than 10,000 letters from former President Obasanjo, stronger than it, stronger than whether he regrets that he made Atiku vice president. Let me tell you why. Former President Obasanjo should spare us a bit and admit that some of us also have our brains effective. We didn't keep it in the refrigerator. Are you aware, Victor, that just a few years ago, Obasanjo sided with Atiku and Obi? He supported them. Who is a fool here? Are you aware? Or have you forgotten that we all went to Otta? He danced with us when Atiku and Obi were on the ballot for the PDP. Victor, please, you remember? Sure. Now, so suddenly again, he's telling us who Atiku was or who Atiku wasn't. Oh, come on, that's not what I need here. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo must rise to the high level of helping us change the debate now. I don't care about what happened between him and Atiku, third term or no third term, who bribed who for impeachment or who did not bribe who. They should stop this dance macabre. They should stop this smear in the mud and join us in pushing for a new narrative going into 2027. And what is a narrative? Competency, capacity, and commitment to the common good. Join us in reshaping the debate. Any candidate who wants to govern Nigeria must come with a watertight, fundamental, and formidable manifesto. Tell us how you want to get these things done. Don't tell me that when you get to power, you do this with power, when you haven't told us how you will do the power. Come on. Obasanjo's distracting. This whole Atiku and Atiku did not do this, Obasanjo did this, Obasanjo did not do that. It's nauseating and annoying. I will not dignify it with whether he's demarketing Atiku for Tinubu or whether he's demarketing Atiku for Peter Obi. No, I will not. I will simply say that those who are around Baba every day should tell Baba, time to advise and call for deeper debate is now. Leave us with your story with Atiku, whether you regret or you don't regret. No, that's not what we need. 6 months into the next election, debate on issues, fundamental issues, that's what we need. I resent every distracting arguments. Just like I tell the obedience, don't come to me with emotive reasoning. Tell me what my former principal, Peter Gregory Obi, will do with fundamental issues. Don't tell me you think I'm supporting this or I want to support. No, that's badadash. That makes no sense to me.
But from what we've
fundamental
seen,
issues,
or
please.
from these arguments, what's the posturing? And we've seen it, like you said, perennial. Do you think he's supporting Obi Kwakwanso or he's leaning towards Tinubu?
Another ambush I will not fall into. Another ambush I will not fall into. I will not dignify former President Olusegun Obasanjo with any campaign poster. I will not. I will not say that he is pro-Obi or pro-Tinubu. I will not.
Why?
Because the fundamental issues, I want the fundamental issues discussed. I want to read a letter from former President Obasanjo talking about what this government and indeed the candidates must tell Nigerians. You know, Victor, as you and I talk in the next few, I think about 2 weeks or so, 14 days from now, campaigns will begin.
All right, let's see, with the election campaign starting very soon, this month.
18th or 19th.
Fine. The presidential candidate, Tinubu, Atiku, Obi, Sowore, Adebayo, Makinde, these are some of the candidates
Hashim Olawekbo.
All right.
My friend and brother.
So who are you supporting for 2027?
Give me a manifesto that works. I will market that candidate.
You have sentiment whether...
Give me a manifesto that works. I will dance in the streets for that candidate.
Without an insight into the manifesto, you must have had one or two interaction with one of these candidates.
Can I make you laugh, Victor?
You can see.
Can I make you laugh?
You can see something you like.
You know, I think Providence and fate has led me on a very strong, albeit instructive journey. Let me shock you. Between 1999 and 2006, I was very close to the incumbent president. Extremely close. We all worked on Project Pronaco together. We were part of the protestation in 2012 at the Ojota. I know President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I have emotions and sympathies for him. Peter Obi is my brother. I campaigned for him. I was lead spokesperson of his independent campaign group in 2023. I donated an office to that campaign, and I used my lounge as one of the enforcement bays or centers for his campaign. Interestingly, if you would need to hear this, in 2019, I was one of the spokespersons to the Atiku Obi campaign. This is true. So I've been around them. So when I say to you, Victor, I need a manifesto, you can understand.
So if you don't see any manifesto, you're not...
An effective manifesto, if I don't see an effective manifesto that addresses the fundamental issues and will subject it to the crucible and put it out to Nigerians to discuss, debate, and argue on them, I won't support anybody. I will continue to educate Nigerians on Project Nigeria.
You work closely with Peter Obi during the 2023 election. What can you tell us about him, especially in the light of claims from former allies questioning his character? Beyond his frugality, what stands him out?
You know, I think I will not want to go up close, personal with his character. I would say that in working with him in 2023, in having a relatively close relationship with him, he comes across as, which is fundamentally important for me, as a man who truly loves our country. He cares and loves our country. And, you know, I will always, Victor, subject any candidate to that duty of test. You know, he loves our country. He has shown that, and he has gone around, and he's still doing that. And that fundamentally counts for my sentiments regarding him. But loving my country is not enough. And that's exactly what I've said here in several ways. Loving my country and showing how effectively you can right the wrongs and how you intend to right the wrongs is what is enough for me.
All right, what is the pathway for Obi Kwakwanso victory in defeating President Tinubu? What do you think is...
Engage more with the people. Engage more with the people. Try to force, if you like that choice of words, try to force a coalition assault. Try to engage more effectively with the opposition. Try to carry as many elements in the opposition along. And preach a message that unites more than a message that divides, and then fundamentally come with an exemplary, an existentially strong and effective message, ditto how you intend to solve the problems, not platitudes, not statements of I will, I did. 2023 fell short of that for me. And so I think that the time has come for, and my brother, your brother broadcaster, Rufai Hosseini, said that much recently, that we're done with talking about what you will do. Tell us how you will do it. And for those who say, oh, he doesn't want to open up his, no. There are so many things you want to garbage in, garbage out. No, it won't happen. And then also, let me say this very clearly. There are no ideas anymore in this universe that is exceptionally yours. I'm speaking deeply. Now, the ability to galvanize those thoughts and ideas and own them is what is necessary. So when I hear people say, oh, he doesn't want to say how he will do it so that the other people will not copy it. If you go to AI, ask just about every question, you'll get a solution on just about everything. So the ability to galvanize, the ability to unite ideas, the ability to come up with a solution and own it is what I want. And none of the leading candidates have done that thus far.
An APC online influencer named Okezie made an update on X and said if Peter Obi likes, he should use Catholic Church to play politics. We too have the RCCG and Anglican members. If he uses Living Faith, we will use Cherubim and Seraphim, CAC, Methodist and Celestial Church of Christ. What do you think of this? What do you think this portrays as we head into the polls?
Sad. It is sad that those words of religion as a weapon of politics, and those words of the late Fashek has come very true, religion and politics. It's sad. It's sad that those who should raise the bar have lowered it to the sex pit. It's sad that rather than do what is proper, right and right, going into 2027, people are pandering to ethnic and political issues. And that's why, Victor, my commitment is to raise the bar. We must raise the bar and do less of religion, do less of ethnocentric politics, and do more of politics of thought, views, and ideas, because that's what will stand the test of time.
Let's wrap up this way. The issue of Femi Gbajabiamila fake agency, the House committee probing the ad hoc committee probing this is almost wrapping up their probe. Regrettably, Femi Gbajabiamila did not appear. Adeni Adeyemi also did not appear. Just in 2 minutes, how do you wrap up? How do you see this?
Messy, annoying, nauseating, shameful, but yet that's the challenge with story as a nation. You can't be said to have conducted a deep inquiry into a matter when the two dramatis personae, allegedly the major issues and persons did not come. But I think that clearly, the cards are clear. From when the presidency came out in defense of the president's chief of staff, you knew, we could see where they were headed. So I think that if this government wants to do right, there must be an open inquiry into what truly happened. Until that is done, this show of shame, this dance macabre, will just serve for a moment. It will come back, it will haunt us, and we must address it.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure having you around.
The pleasure is mine. God bless Nigeria.
Thank you.